Picture this, a crisp fall morning at Arlington National Cemetery. The sky is pale gold, the kind that glows before the sun really wakes up. The air is sharp enough to sting your lungs, and a light mist drapes over the endless rows of white headstones. They stretch out in perfect formation, like soldiers still standing watch over the land they died to protect. At the center of it all rests the tomb of the unknown soldier, a block of white marble so solemn it feels alive with history. Every crack, every line, every shadow seems to whisper the same message: remember them. And guarding that sacred promise is Sergeant Daniel Carter, Danny, to the few who've earned the right to call him that. 28 years old, member of the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. The best of the best. He's not tall, not bulky. Just built solid, the kind of strength that comes from discipline, not muscle. His uniform? Pressed to razor-sharp perfection. The creases could cut glass. His M14 rests at his shoulder, his gloves spotless, his eyes locked straight ahead on a point invisible to anyone but him. Every motion is exact. 21 steps. Pause. Turn. 21 steps back. Not a routine, a ritual. A vow renewed every few seconds. The crowd gathered behind the ropes knows they're watching something sacred. A father kneels beside his little girl, whispering about courage. An old veteran in a sun-faded army cap stands silent, jaw tight, eyes wet. Even a group of teenagers, the kind who usually fidget and scroll, are still, phones pocketed, instinctively aware they're in the presence of something bigger than words. The only sound that cuts the morning stillness is the rhythm of Danny's boots on stone. Click. 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 Like the steady heartbeat of a nation. Danny knows that sound better than his own breath. He's been through things that would rattle most men, 2 tours overseas, firefights that left more scars inside than out. One scar runs the length of his forearm, a gift from a roadside bomb that took out half his squad. He doesn't brag about it. Doesn't post photos. To him, the real heroes are the ones who never came home, the ones sleeping beneath this very ground. That's why he volunteered for this duty. Not for recognition. Not for medals. For them, the nameless, the forgotten, the ones who gave everything and got nothing in return but eternal silence. But silence is about to be broken. From across the plaza, the hum of engines rises, wrong, out of place. 3 black SUVs roll up the gravel path, tires crunching where no tires should. Arlington isn't a place for unannounced visitors, especially not this close to the tomb. Doors swing open, and 5 men step out, armored up in tactical gear. Their leader, Lieutenant Mike Brennan, 38, broad-shouldered and smug, scans the plaza like he owns it. His mirrored sunglasses flash in the morning light. He's local SWAT, the kind of man who mistakes authority for respect. Man, he mutters loud enough for the nearest tourists to hear, look at this guy. What is he, a wind-up toy? His team chuckles, except one, Officer Jenna Torres, the youngest of them. She shifts uneasily, her gaze flicking from Brennan to the silent sentinel, her gut telling her this is wrong. A park ranger steps forward, voice firm but polite. Sir, this is a restricted area. No unauthorized. Brennan cuts him off, flashing his badge like a shield. Lieutenant Brennan, Tactical Response Unit. We're cleared for a joint ops exercise. Orders from up top. The ranger frowns, scrolling his tablet. Sir, I don't have. Relax, Brennan interrupts, brushing past him. We're just observing. No harm, no foul. He steps over the barrier, boots grinding the gravel. The tourists murmur, uneasy. The ranger tries again, sir, please, but Brennan's already closing the distance. He stops just feet from Danny's march path, tilting his head like he's studying an exhibit. So this is it, huh? The big show. Marching back and forth for ghosts. You even know who you're guarding? Danny doesn't move. Doesn't even blink. He's marble carved into flesh. 21 seconds later, he turns with perfect precision and continues his march. Click. 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 The silence needles Brennan. He grins, ugly, taunting. Oh, come on, man. You don't talk. Don't move unless they tell you to. He pulls out a protein bar, tears it open with his teeth, and chews loud, exaggerated. Bet I could wave this in your face and you wouldn't even twitch. The ranger's voice sharpens. Sir, you're disrupting an official ceremony. I need you to. Relax, Brennan waves him off. Just testing his focus. Allies, right? Same team. He turns to his squad with a smirk. $20 says he's asleep under that hat. The crowd stirs, uneasy whispers ripple. A mom pulls her daughter close. The old veteran's jaw clenches. Disrespectful punk, he mutters. Even Jenna looks sick now. Her hand rests near her taser, but she doesn't draw it. She knows this isn't a moment for force. It's a moment for decency, something her boss clearly lacks. Brennan steps closer, right into the sentinel's path. His smirk fades into something colder. You know, he says, voice dripping disdain, this whole thing's a joke. Real men are out there doing the hard work while you're out here playing statue. What's this supposed to prove? Danny reaches his post point, turns, and begins again. His eyes never meet Brennan's. Click. 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 Precision. Patience. Purpose. Brennan's jaw tightens. The silence is too much for his ego. All right, fine. Let's see how tough you really are. He unclips his taser, raising it with a grin. Just a little test. Training exercise. No harm done. Sir, don't, the ranger shouts, lunging forward. Too late. The taser fires. The darts strike Danny's thigh with a snap and a flash of blue crackle. The buzz cuts through the morning like thunder. Danny's body locks, muscles tight, jaw clenched, but he doesn't fall. He doesn't cry out. His gloved hand grips the rifle tighter. Blood seeps between the white fabric, staining it red. The crowd gasps. A child screams, "Mommy, he hurt him." The old veteran steps forward before catching himself, fists trembling. Brennan steps back, smirking. See? Statue still standing. Tough guy, huh? His team laughs weakly, except Jenna. She stares, horrified. Mike, that was too far. Brennan shrugs. Low voltage. He's fine. Look at him. And Danny is fine, at least, he looks it. Still standing. Eyes fixed. Rifle steady. The darts dangle from his thigh, his trousers scorched black. But his face is iron. The silence that follows isn't reverence anymore. It's disbelief. The kind that makes your heart pound in your throat. A sacred place just violated, and the only man who didn't move was the one hit. In a small security hut nearby, a ranger hits an emergency button. Radios crackle. This isn't a minor disturbance anymore. It's a breach of something holy. And somewhere, across the marble and mist of Arlington, a figure begins to move. A man in a 4-star uniform, heading straight for the plaza. Because when respect is broken on sacred ground, someone has to set it right. The echo of that taser shot still hangs in the air when the rumble of boots approaches. A new figure enters the plaza, tall, broad-shouldered, medals glinting faintly on a perfectly pressed dress uniform. 4-star General Nathaniel Ross. The kind of man whose presence alone changes the temperature of a room. His hair is silver, his posture absolute. Decades of service have carved lines into his face, each one earned in blood, not ceremony. Ross isn't here for show. He came the moment the alert hit his phone, disturbance at the tomb. And now he's seeing it for himself. Sergeant Danny Carter, still standing at his post, smoke curling faintly from the taser burns on his thigh. A SWAT lieutenant smirking like a schoolyard bully who just kicked over a gravestone. And a silent crowd, frozen between outrage and awe. Ross steps forward. His voice isn't loud, but it cuts through the air like a blade. "Lieutenant. What did you just do?" Brennan turns, still halfway between arrogance and confusion. "General Ross, sir. We were conducting." "You what?" Ross interrupts. The word lands heavy, not shouted, just measured. Brennan straightens. "A controlled test of reaction discipline." "Just." Ross takes another step closer. He's taller up close, his stare so steady it makes the air tighten. "This man," Ross says, nodding toward Danny, "is performing one of the most sacred duties in the United States Army. He represents every soldier who never came home. And you," his gaze flicks down to the taser, "decided to turn that into your personal field experiment?" Brennan opens his mouth, then closes it. The crowd has gone completely still. Ross turns slightly toward the ranger. "Who authorized this man's presence here?" "No one, sir," the ranger says quickly. "He forced his way in under a fake clearance claim." Ross nods once, slow, deliberate. Then he looks back at Brennan, and when he speaks, it's not loud. It's quieter, which somehow makes it 10 times worse. "Lieutenant, you just assaulted a tomb guard. On active duty. In uniform. On sacred ground." Brennan starts to fumble. "It was a joke, sir. Just proving." Ross steps forward until the space between them disappears. "I've led men into real battles, Lieutenant. Seen men die with their eyes open. And I've seen others stand guard over their fallen brothers through hurricanes, snow, and the darkest nights of this country's grief." He leans closer. "You will not mock them." The silence cracks as a pair of MPs rush up the stairs. Ross doesn't look away from Brennan. "Arrest this man," he says simply. Brennan's jaw drops. "What? You can't." "Now," Ross says, his voice still level. The MPs move without hesitation. Brennan's teammates freeze, hands raised halfway, unsure what to do. Even Jenna looks stunned, a mix of relief and disbelief crossing her face as the cuffs snap closed around her commander's wrists. As they lead Brennan away, Ross finally turns to Danny. The sergeant still hasn't moved. His posture is perfect, rifle steady, eyes fixed. But now, up close, you can see the blood running down his leg, dark against the marble. Ross approaches him slowly. "Sergeant Carter." No response. Ross lowers his tone. "At ease, son. You're relieved." For a long moment, nothing happens. Then, with mechanical precision, Danny executes a slow about-face, bringing his rifle to rest. His expression never changes, but something flickers behind his eyes, pain, exhaustion, maybe pride. He steps back one pace and salutes. Ross returns it, firm and respectful. Only then does Danny's leg buckle slightly. One of the old guard attendants rushes forward to steady him, but Danny waves him off. "I'm fine," he murmurs quietly. "Just a scratch." Ross studies him. "You should get medical attention." Danny shakes his head. "Sir, the watch is not complete." That line, simple, steady, delivered without ego, lands like a hammer. Ross looks around at the gathering crowd. Veterans, families, tourists, everyone watching. The general straightens, then steps aside, making room. Then carry on, Sergeant, he says softly. And Danny does. He resets his stance, grips his rifle, and resumes the march. 21 steps. Pause. Turn. 21 steps back. The burn marks are visible now, smoke rising faintly from his trousers. But he keeps moving. Every step deliberate. Every pause a statement. No one breathes. No one speaks. Even the birds seem to hold still. Ross turns to the ranger. Get the medic ready on standby, quietly. He'll finish his shift. The ranger nods, eyes glassy. Yes, sir. Ross watches for a long time, the rhythm, the silence, the unwavering devotion. Then he murmurs to no one in particular. This is why we still have hope. He turns and walks toward the waiting car, leaving the crowd behind, but not before glancing once more at the tomb. And for the first time in decades, the general salutes not as an officer, but as a man humbled by the sight of a soldier who refused to fall. The crowd finally exhales. A single ripple of applause breaks out, quiet, reverent, spreading through the plaza like a prayer. Danny never reacts. He just keeps walking. Because for him, this isn't about who's watching. It's about who can't. Would you like me to continue with part 3 now, where the fallout begins, Brennan's public backlash, Danny's recovery, and the viral video that changes everything? It'll keep the same tone and cinematic pacing. By noon, the story had already escaped the marble walls of Arlington. Someone in the crowd had filmed the whole thing, the taser, the silence, the unbroken march. Within hours, it spread like wildfire. News stations, social feeds, military pages, everyone was talking about the guard who took a hit and never fell. But Sergeant Danny Carter didn't know any of that. He was sitting on a narrow cot behind the guard post, his thigh bandaged, uniform pants replaced, face calm. A medic checked his vitals while an officer from the old guard stood by, trying not to stare. You sure you don't want to rest, Sergeant? Danny shook his head. Sir, I volunteered for this watch. I'll finish it. He wasn't being stubborn. He just believed that the tomb didn't pause for pain, so neither should he. Outside, the plaza had been roped off, the tourists moved back for investigation. But they didn't leave. They stood beyond the barriers, waiting. For what, none of them could say. Maybe just to see the soldier who'd reminded them what honor looked like in a world that forgot. Meanwhile, Brennan sat in a gray room at Fort Myer, his swagger gone. His team was silent. Jenna Torres sat 2 chairs away, staring at the table, her fingers trembling. A military investigator entered, followed by General Ross himself. The general didn't sit. He just stood across from Brennan and spoke in that same calm voice. Lieutenant, your actions today violated federal protection of military memorials, disrupted a ceremonial post, and disrespected the tomb of the unknown soldier. Brennan tried to interrupt. Sir, I was only. Ross raised a hand. No. You weren't thinking. You were performing for attention. He leaned closer. You see, son, there's a difference between authority and honor. One is worn. The other is earned. You wore one today. He carried the other. Brennan's face burned red. His team avoided his eyes. Jenna finally spoke up, her voice low. Sir, I tried to stop him. Ross nodded. And you'll have a chance to prove that. But make no mistake, what happened today will follow every one of you. Some lessons come easy. Others are burned into memory. Back at the tomb, Danny returned to his post. His limp was barely noticeable now, but every step had weight, not from pain, but from purpose. Each click of his boots echoed across the plaza like a heartbeat. A new crowd had gathered, quieter, humbler. Some had flowers, some just stood silently. No phones out this time. Just respect. The ranger whispered to a tourist nearby, "That's him. The guard who got tossed." The tourist didn't answer. She just clasped her hands together and watched. In the far corner, an old man in a wheelchair, the veteran from earlier, sat straight-backed, tears streaking his cheeks. He'd fought in Vietnam, lost friends who never came home, and in Danny's silence, he saw them again. "God bless you, son," he murmured under his breath. "You remind this world what it means to stand for something." That night, the video aired on national news. Headlines called him the sentinel who wouldn't fall. Talk shows debated it, journalists replayed the footage frame by frame, the shock, the stillness, the way Danny's body absorbed the current and refused to yield. Commentators argued about rules, politics, and power, but the people didn't care about the noise. They saw something simple, a man doing his duty when no one would have blamed him for breaking. Messages began pouring into the regiment's inbox. Letters from veterans, families, and even schoolchildren. One from a Gold Star widow read, "My husband never made it home from Afghanistan. Watching that guard today reminded me that he's not forgotten. Thank you." Danny didn't see any of it. He wasn't on social media, didn't have a public phone. The old guard shielded him from the noise. He just kept walking his 21 steps, day and night, as the nation argued and applauded around him. At the Pentagon, General Ross sat in his office, watching the video on mute. He'd seen thousands of acts of courage, on the battlefield, in hospitals, at gravesides, but something about this hit deeper. Maybe because courage wasn't supposed to look like defiance. Sometimes, it looked like stillness. He turned to his aide. "Set up a meeting with Carter tomorrow." Quietly. "No cameras." The aide nodded. "Yes, sir." "Do you want to award him formally?" Ross shook his head. "No. He doesn't need another medal. He just needs to know we noticed." The next morning, when Danny stepped off duty, he was surprised to find Ross waiting near the guard house. The general extended his hand. "Sergeant." Danny hesitated, then took it. "Sir. You did your duty yesterday under pressure that no soldier should have to face," Ross said. "You reminded the country that honor doesn't shout, it stands. You have my respect." "Thank you, sir," Danny replied simply. Ross studied him for a moment. "You could have broken stance. No one would have blamed you." Danny looked toward the tomb. "Sir, it's not about me. It's about them. They never moved, so neither could I." The general nodded slowly, a rare flicker of emotion crossing his face. Then he saluted, sharp and full. Danny returned it with equal precision. 2 generations of service, united by silence. That evening, as the sun sank behind the marble rows, the plaza grew quiet again. The mist rolled in. The tourists drifted away. And under the glow of the floodlights, the tomb stood unchanged, white, cold, eternal. Danny's silhouette moved across it like a shadow in rhythm, click, 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 21 steps, pause, turn. If you stood far enough away, you'd swear time itself had stopped to listen. The next few days changed everything. News anchors debated what discipline really meant. Some called Danny Carter a hero, others said he was simply doing his job. But for millions watching, it didn't matter which label fit. They had seen something real, a soldier who didn't bend when the world expected him to break. At Arlington, the leaves had started to turn. A soft breeze carried the faint scent of rain across the headstones. Visitors came in larger numbers now, not for spectacle but out of gratitude. They left flowers, medals, folded notes. One read in careful handwriting, "For the guard who stood still so we could remember those who can't." Danny never read them. He didn't have to. He could feel the quiet change in the air, the kind of respect that doesn't need applause. Inside the guard quarters, Sergeant Maria Lopez prepared for her shift. She'd trained beside Danny for months, memorizing every detail of the ritual. When she saw him tightening his gloves, she said softly, "You set the bar higher for all of us." He gave a small nod. "Just keep the watch," he said. "No speeches. No headlines. Just duty." Out on the plaza, the old veteran returned. He parked his wheelchair by the rope line again, hands folded over a cane. The same little girl from before stood beside him this time, clutching a small flag. She whispered, "Is he the same guard?" The old man smiled faintly. "Yes, sweetheart. And he's still marching." The child stared, wide-eyed, as Danny passed, his boots striking marble with the same unbroken rhythm. Click, click, click. 21 steps. Pause. Turn. Somewhere beyond the fence, a reporter lowered her camera. "It's strange," she said quietly to her crew. "The more you watch him, the less you want to talk." They packed up without filming a frame. Back at Fort Myer, Brennan faced a formal review. His badge was suspended, his reputation shattered. But the real punishment wasn't the paperwork, it was the silence. The same silence he'd mocked now surrounded him. Jenna Torres visited him once, sliding an envelope across the table. Inside was a photo from the plaza, Danny mid-march, eyes forward, unshaken. Brennan stared at it for a long moment before saying quietly, "He didn't even hate me for it, did he?" Jenna shook her head. "He didn't even look at you. He was guarding something bigger." That realization sank deep. For the first time in years, Brennan had nothing to say. At headquarters, General Ross reviewed the official report. He scribbled a single note at the bottom before signing it. "Courage is not reaction. It is restraint." Then he closed the folder and looked out across the cemetery from his window. Thousands of white stones lined the hill, each one a story that would never be told aloud. And down there, the sentinels still walked, alone yet never lonely. By sunset, the crowd had thinned. A golden haze stretched over the marble, and the bugle's echo drifted from the amphitheater, taps, low and haunting. In that moment, no one saw a soldier. They saw an idea, that quiet strength could outlast every shout, every shock, every storm. The narrator's voice returns, soft but clear. So what does real strength look like? It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't hit back. It simply stands, for what's right, for who came before, for those who never came home. The scene widens, rows of headstones fading into mist, flags fluttering faintly, the lone guard walking his eternal path. In a world where everyone's fighting to be heard, the voice continues. Remember the man who chose silence, and let that silence speak for every name carved in stone. The music swells, strings low, steady, as the screen fades to black. Then a final line appears in white letters. Real strength doesn't shout. It stands. And somewhere beyond the credits, you can still hear it, the steady echo of boots on marble. Click, click, click. 21 steps. Pause. Turn. 21 steps back. The rhythm never ends. Neither does the promise.